Hi, this is Michaela with Honest Talk Radio. Honest Talk Radio is a space where we'll be sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly in real, raw conversations and do our part to reduce the amount of shame, guilt, and judgment that so many of us face. Our hope is that through these conversations, you'll feel supported and encouraged in all aspects of your life. Wednesday nights are dedicated to nutrition and fitness with father, actor, author, and all-around great guy, Sanjay Raja. So, hey Sanjay, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you doing?
Great, thank you. So, tonight's topic is how to get started on a healthy lifestyle and really how to do that on a budget.
Yeah, no, this is a topic that a lot of people struggle with because they don't know where to start. And moreover, there's all these diet plans out there that tell you, hey, don't cook, we'll make all the food for you.
Yes.
And I know we covered this last time, but that is just a Band-Aid that people can't really sustain. So doing it on your own, if you have a plan in place and you do it stepwise fashion, can actually be pretty easy, and you'll see the results a lot quicker than you think.
Exactly. And the thing is, like you said, so many things, so much information out there, it's overload. But it's also really easy to say, I'll do it next week, or I'll start on Monday. So how do we get around that mentality?
Yeah. So, it's the old adage of basically, you basically put everything off till the very last minute. So, and I'm not gonna try and generalize, but what I see a lot happening, and this happens more with women than I do than with men, is basically they have a wedding to go to, they've got a birthday party, they got a family gathering coming up where they can see family, and they freak out and they say, "Oh my God, I gotta lose a bunch of weight."
Right.
So they kind of then they put a timeline in their head of the wedding is like 3 weeks away, the family gathering is a month away, so the clock starts right now. So they put this self-imposed timeline on their head, and what they realize is that it's a lot harder to do that in such a short timeline because then they're miserable through the entire process, right?
Right.
And then when they complete it, they're like, I'm never going to do that again. And so they don't do it the right way. And then the right way is a lot easier if you have a step-by-step plan in place.
It all goes back to the plan. It all goes back to have that, like you talk about, the prepping and the plan as opposed to just the willy-nilly throwing something out there.
Exactly. So that being said, when you are trying to decide what kind of life you want to live. So do you want to gain muscle? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to be lean? So you got to decide what is it that you want to look like, right? And based upon that, then you put a plan in place. Now, one of the things I like to do to, myself, and I tell my clients is, look in the mirror and visualize how you want to look.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who did this, who was really successful doing this, was Arnold Schwarzenegger at his peak. What he would talk about was he'd look at himself, and he was a monster back in his prime, and he'd say, you know what, I want bigger triceps, I want bigger this. So he'd visualize it in his head about how he wanted to look, and then that would manifest into him taking action, right?
Yeah, it's a mindset.
It's a mindset, exactly. So a lot of people go into this saying, hey, I just want to lose 10 pounds and that's it. And guess what? They don't know how to visualize how to lose 10 pounds, right? So visualizing is so important. It's like having a vision board almost. Have you ever made one of those?
Yes, I'm a huge fan of vision boards.
Yeah, so I did that a while back as well. And what I realized is after making this thing, I started crossing so many things off my list on that vision board. It just started coming my way because I kept thinking about it, and basically your thoughts and actions manifest into actions and so on and so forth. But you got to do the work, obviously. So that being said, first visualize, what do you want to look like? Do you want to gain mass? Do you want to lose weight? What do you want to do? Then two, it comes down to majority of the work is going to be done in the kitchen. Okay, so you're going to have to really focus on what you put into your body, because the algorithm I use with my clients, 60-30-10. 60% diet, 30% exercise, 10% sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So following those guidelines, now you have an action plan of, I got to really focus on diet, then the exercise, and then the sleep. So then you got to look at your pantry. First thing I tell people to do is the top 3 things, if you had to list them in order, which is number 1, first calculate how much water you're drinking and then multiply that times 3, because most people are not drinking enough water.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
Right.
Guilty as charged.
Exactly. So that's the first thing you want to do is take how much water you're drinking, which is probably not enough, and just multiply it by 3. You can never have too much water. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, look at really this is the part that's going to be a little bit challenging, but also very revealing. And a lot of people don't want to do it because they don't want to admit the truth to themselves, which is take an inventory of how much sugar you're consuming on a weekly basis, which you can extrapolate to a month.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do that? Just take a typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and just calculate basically that through the week that you do, 7 days in a week, and then multiply it times 4 weeks. And what you're going to find is most people are consuming probably 3 or 4 times the amount of sugar that they should be consuming, but they didn't even know it.
Well, because when you think of sugar, you think of actually, just the hot sugar items like the candy, the sodas, but there's sugar in everything. Especially if you're not eating homemade, home cooked things, then sugar can creep in places you don't even think about.
Yeah, the number 1 culprit of sugar is condiments. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
And people pour ketchup and pasta sauce. Like if you're not careful and you don't look at the labels, pasta sauce is notorious for the amount of sugar they put in there. And you ladle that stuff on, you don't even think about how much you're eating.
Right.
So that's the second step, would be calculate the amount of sugar you're doing or consuming by taking a week, multiplying times 4, and then what you want to do is reduce that by 30% over the course of a month. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're consuming, let's say in a day, you're consuming 30 to 40 grams of excess sugar, and then you multiply that times 7. So you're looking at 280 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
All right? So what you want to do, then 280 grams of sugar, you look at that and say, okay, that's probably my average. So let me take 280, multiply it times 4 weeks, and you're looking at about 1,120 grams of sugar in a month. Okay?
Wow.
Which, by the way, is a very low number because it's probably quadruple that what I see a lot of people consume.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm being really conservative here. If we just take 30% out of that, okay, then you're looking at taking out 336 grams of sugar out of that equation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So basically you're saying now 1120 minus 336. So now you want to reduce your monthly sugar intake to 784 grams in a month, okay?
Yep.
So divide that by 4. So on a weekly basis, you should only be consuming 196 grams of sugar for that month. All right?
Yep.
Divide that again by 7 days. Your daily excess sugar intake should be 28 grams per day to hit that goal.
Wow.
All right? Yeah, so if you really break it down, these numbers, then you now know exactly what number you have to hit and not exceed. And 28 grams of excess sugar, let me put it this way, you can find that everywhere, okay? Everywhere. That means, guess what? Instead of having a Coke or some sort of soda every day like you and I talked about we did, guess what? Try to do it every other day.
Mm-hmm.
And then start to every 2 days. Don't have those candies that you don't need to eat. Limit your dessert intake to maybe once a week versus 3 or 4 times a week. Look at your condiments, how much you're putting in on top of your food. So looking at all these factors, you can hit your number because now you have a tangible number, a target to hit.
Right.
Most people just go, I don't know where to start because you don't have a target. Now you have a target.
Well, and you're talking about really simple things, not overhauling your complete diet with just these, like the condiments. I mean, that is one really easy way to change
Oh yeah.
a small part of your diet and not have that like huge withdrawal or with, making you feel like when you cut out drinking Coke completely, like that was a big
Huge.
step. That was huge.
Yeah.
But not eating ketchup on your eggs could be something, you could replace it maybe with something
Like hot sauce.
like hot sauce. Yeah.
So there's plenty of substitutes out there. And then juices and all those beverages you drink throughout the day that contain a lot of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's two, sugar. So number one's water. Number two is sugar. Number three, you want to now increase your fiber intake. I harp on fiber all the time, but it's like the least popular macronutrient people like to focus on.
Yeah.
Fiber eliminates sugar from your diet. Fiber eliminates excess carbs from your diet. Fiber keeps you regular. And fiber also, the daily intake of it will reduce your risk of colon cancer as well.
So what is the daily recommended dose of fiber, intake of fiber?
Well, it's different for everybody in the sense of it's based on body weight and size and, and just kind of what your daily routine is. But my rule of thumb on fiber is basically if you had to prioritize the calories, where they're coming from, I would say number one would be fiber. Number two would be protein. Number three would be carbs. Number four would be good fats. And number five would be sugar.
Okay. I think that's doable.
That's very doable, actually. And so typically, if you look at the studies, they're saying roughly 25 to 30 grams per day of fiber is what's recommended.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, why is that number significant? Because think about this. If you get 30 grams of fiber in your diet, then guess what? What this means is that if you consume about 60 to 70 grams of carbs, subtract 70 grams of carbs minus 40 grams of fiber, and that's the actual amount of carbs you're actually storing.
Right.
So if you want to eat your carbs, I say double your fiber.
Huh. I like that idea.
Yeah. But yeah, you did. Now, the key is you want to eat the right type of carbs at the right time. You just can't go willy-nilly on white rice for, 4 bro. You can't do that, So all that being said, if you just take those 3 steps, increase water intake, reduce sugar, increase fiber. Here's the thing. Water is very cheap.
Yes.
From the tap. Number 2, you decrease sugar, you're decreasing the amount of money you're spending.
True. Yes.
Fiber. Where do you get that? Fruits and veggies. Yes. So how do we do that? Well, you don't have to buy organic everything. There's certain fruits and certain veggies you want to buy organic and others you don't. So the rule of thumb is this. Berries, any fruit with a thin skin, buy organic because pesticides seep through that thin skin and you will be consuming them. So therefore you want to go organic on thin-skinned fruits.
Yes, I have heard that. What happens if you live in an area where finding organic food is super difficult? Yeah, what are some other options?
I mean, the other options are buy them frozen,
Yeah.
Buy frozen berries if you need to and thaw them out. That's another option you can do. All right. Greens, basically you want soluble fiber. Basically plant fiber is the best because it helps pass a lot of material through the system. It's natural. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe you need to take Metamucil and all this stuff. If you're getting the daily recommended amount of fiber, that's another spend you don't have to make when you can just get it from your food.
Right. And when you shop on the outside area of the grocery store, the perimeter, then it's actually cuts your bill in maybe in half, even if I venture to go that far, because it's all those boxed prepared foods that end up costing more.
Oh, yeah. And guess what? Those box prepared foods, you look at the fiber intake, it's always less than 5 grams, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay. They pump it full of niacin and riboflavin, which are chemical additives to give it some nutritional quality, but they don't pump it full of fiber. Okay. Because you can't.
Right.
You know, or they pump it full of sugar and sodium. So you're taking excess sodium. So that being said, fiber is an easy macronutrient to start embracing. I do it in the morning by eating my breakfast, which, as many of you heard, is quite ridiculous to some people. But oatmeal, okay? Oatmeal contains this fiber called beta-glucan. That fiber is awesome because it helps remove cholesterol, okay?
Yeah.
So oatmeal is a great source of fiber in the morning. Sprouted grains, like we talked about,
Right.
great source of fiber. You talk about nuts like almond butter, great source of fiber. So in the morning, you can stack up on your fiber and you can be ahead of your daily fiber intake in the morning, which is great because it primes the rest of your day. You know, at lunchtime, have your greens as much, you know, if you can. Brown rice is good. Black rice is fantastic. I'm a big advocate for black rice.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of fiber. And then for dinner, for example, what you want to do is this. Breakfast is your cheat meal. Consume your calories, good calories for breakfast, okay? And then after 10 a.m., don't consume any fruit because guess what? That's excess sugar you don't need throughout the day because you're going to be more sedentary throughout the day than you will earlier in the morning, right?
Huh. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So basically, most people work jobs where they have to sit for long periods of time and they don't move. So don't have fruit after 10 a.m.
Okay.
So that's another little trick you can do. For lunch, reduce your lunch intake by like 20% off of what you ate for breakfast. That's nothing really.
Yeah.
Okay. And have protein, greens, fiber, and some good carbs in there. For dinner, you want to focus on good fats like avocados. You want to like olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
You want to focus on protein as well. And you want to focus on reducing your carb intake by another 30% as well. But have the right type of carbs. So sweet potatoes are great. Black rice is good. A little bit of brown rice is good. You know, taking in any sort of like squash or any sort of vegetables that contain a lot of pulp and a lot of fibrous material,
Mm-hmm.
right? Squash. So, and then the key is here, by dinner time, you're not consuming any sugar at all. And guess what? You'll be able to hit that number so fast, it'll actually surprise you.
You mentioned having some good carbs at lunch, but if you are at a sedentary job, you know, where you're sitting a lot throughout the day, what are some examples of some good carbs at lunchtime if you're not eating fruit after 10 a.m.?
Doing quinoa is
Okay.
good. You know, quinoa is great. Sweet potatoes are great. I love the sweet potatoes for
Would
dinner.
you say veggies are like a free-for-all all day long?
Yeah, veggies are great free-for-all because they contain a good amount of fiber, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. You know, so always focus on those veggies because veggies do contain carbs as well, okay? But they're good carbs because they are basically eliminated with the fiber that's in those veggies as well.
Right.
So if you just follow those steps, guess what? You now have a tangible number to hit. You know what to do as far as planning out your meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you will actually reduce cost overall because you're going to take out the junk, which
Right.
adds time. You will hit your goal, and it's actually pretty easy if you follow this plan.
Mm-hmm. So what, I know as a busy mom and one that is, you know, running my kids here and there and between working and between exercising or just whatever other commitments get thrown my way, it's really easy to skip food and realize that, oh my gosh, it's 2:00 and I haven't, I might have had breakfast, but it was at 5 a.m. and I haven't eaten anything since.
Yeah, so that's a great point. Like, for example, today I'm traveling, right?
Right.
So I flew this morning at 6 a.m. from Orlando to LA. So what I do, I brought my Tupperware full of breakfast on the plane. So I ate my 7 poached eggs on the plane. I ate my giant breakfast on the plane. And then I didn't really have time for lunch. So, because I had to go from meeting to event to meeting. So what I do is I snack healthy throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I always pack snacks like peanuts, unsalted peanuts, almonds, just, almond butter. I'll have little almond butter packets that I'll eat. I'll just pack some healthy snacks along the way. So that way I'm having small meals.
Mm-hmm.
They're not filling. They're just trying to sustain my blood sugar. But I'm not fasting because that's the worst thing you could do is basically not eat.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And I am so bad at that because I make sure my kids eat and then I get distracted with the laundry or, especially when my kids were really little, if they were sitting down for breakfast in the morning, I saw it as an opportunity to get a few things done that I needed to get done. And I didn't make myself a priority.
Exactly. And that's the thing. We need to make those a priority. So when they're eating, you should probably be eating with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We do for dinner, family dinner time there's so much emphasis on that, but really it's all meals.
No, absolutely. And here's the thing. It's tough to do all meals because they're in school, right?
Right.
So breakfast, yes. Dinner, yes. Lunch, hit or miss because they're in school.
Yeah.
But those 2 meals should be actually the most important anyways. I would say lunch is the most insignificant meal of the day. So breakfast and dinner should be the most important.
Oh man, and lunch is probably my favorite.
Well, that's the thing with lunch. It's like lunch is a lot of people look at lunch as I'm going to, take my lunch break to go take a nap. I'm going to do this. There's a lot of definitions for what people use lunch for, right?
True.
Right? So, but breakfast, when you're sitting down for breakfast, you're having breakfast. Dinner is dinner. So those 2 meals are locked in.
Yeah, good point. So we have a question from the audience, and it's about sugar. Yeah. And so, a lot of us were taught that everything in moderation is okay. So what is so bad about sugar?
All right. So here's the thing, though. To answer that question, can you truly say you're having sugar in moderation? That's my first question.
Yeah, and that's some food for thought.
And what's your definition of moderate amount of sugar? That's the other question I would have. Okay? Because you think about this, and that is, it doesn't take a lot of sugar to basically change the body's metabolism. That's how caustic and how just inflammatory sugar is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take a lot. And so that's the thing. If you're an athlete and your job is to work out, guess what? Sugar doesn't affect them because you're always moving.
Right.
Most of us don't have jobs where we're always moving. We're in front of a computer. We're sitting in the car, sitting in front of a desk. So guess what? Sugar has a more profound effect on us.
Yeah.
So it comes down to, yes, moderation is key. That's why I said, don't eliminate that dessert, but instead of having it 7 days a week, have it 2 or 3 times a week.
Right.
Right? But what is your definition of moderation? Because when I was consulting surgeons in the operating room, we'd get these patients who'd say, I swear to God, doc, I eat a pound of broccoli. Why do I gain so much weight? Well, here's the thing. You're not really being honest with yourself. You may eat a pound of broccoli, but you probably had a half a pound of sugar that day.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the point. And as people, when it comes to sugar, live in this world of, oh, I don't eat that much. But when they sit down and really calculate it, that's why I do those calculations, they're shocked as to how much they actually are consuming.
I will admit, when I was pregnant, I was probably the healthiest because I was the most mindful of what I was putting in my body and being, writing it down on a consistent basis and adding it up, because that's just how, because I was taking care of somebody else in my, inside my body, I was that much more diligent about being on top of it. But as women, especially, it can be really easy to make us the last priority.
It's true. It's true. When we did that speech at the Honest Talk weekend,
Yep.
talking about self-care, I mean, the one of the analogies I was making was be the superhero in your kid's life. If
Yeah.
you take care of yourself, guess what? They will see that you take pride in your health, your wellness. And if you do that, they will want to emulate that, because if you look good, if you feel good, you're that much of a better parent for them.
Right. And
Right?
it's funny when you're holding your kids accountable for something like that, they're holding you accountable too. Especially for me, having older kids, we are making nutrition, the topic of nutrition, a really important one in our dinner conversations.
Absolutely.
And so it is true. To be able to turn around and, say, well, how did you eat today? But then if they asked me the same question, how am I going to answer it? It's, looking in front of that mirror when you're like, ooh.
Yeah, no, that's true, because we are mirrors to our kids.
Yeah.
Right. And I hate to say it this way, but this is just the fact of the matter is I typically see when you have parents who are overweight, you have kids who are overweight.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens that way. It's not by coincidence.
Right.
Because you lead by example, whether or not you like it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then if you have parents who work out, you typically have kids who are more active. I see that too.
Right.
So that's the thing. It all starts with you. So when you're taking care of yourself, like we're talking about here, self-care, you are actually taking care of your entire family, because you're showing them, hey, this is how you take pride in how you look, how you feel. And guess what? If you do those steps on a daily basis, it's not a chore. It becomes a ritual you look forward to.
Yeah, that's a key word right there, is that it's not a chore. When you make these, especially I think when you make these goals as a family, and I'm sure you talk a lot about this, in the book, is having family goals around healthy nutrition, because then you're all in it together, and it's not the mom trying to cook differently for herself than for the kids, or the parents dieting and the kids eating whatever because they're kids. And
no, that's a great point, because the most successful clients I have is when the families are all in it together and on the same page.
So
because
on that topic though,
yeah,
sorry, how do you sometimes getting everybody on the same page, especially your partner, can be quite a challenge.
Well, here's a funny story, and I'll kind of tell you this, and that is when I walk into a house and I see a family, and they're like, one wants to get healthy, the other one is not placing that much importance on it, right?
Right.
The first question I ask them is, I say, how strong is your relationship? And they're like, why you asking me that? I said, because this is going to test your relationship. Because if one of you is on the path to health and wellness, what's going to happen is you're going to go along this process, but you will be a mirror for that other person as to what they're not doing.
Yeah. And sometimes that causes hostility.
Oh, it causes a lot of hostility. That's why I say, how strong is your relationship? That's why I ask that question all the time.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. Couples that do it together, as far as getting on the journey to health and wellness, are very successful. Couples who do it separately can be successful as long as they're supportive.
Mm-hmm.
But couples who are on completely opposite pages are the least successful, because one will try to sabotage the other and not even know that they're trying to do it.
Right. And it's that whole self-reflection thing, because when you see somebody else achieving their dreams or their goals, then it forces you to see what you're not doing.
Is exactly right. You become a mirror for that other person.
Yeah.
And so that being said, it is a very sore subject, just like parenting is,
Mm-hmm.
both, you know, you ask, if you ever tell somebody, give them some parenting advice, people's first reaction is, did I ask for it?
Yeah.
Right? And which is I'm totally fine with that because I don't want unsolicited advice myself.
Right.
But when you talk about health, wellness, nutrition, guess what? You get the same reaction. You get the exact same reaction. If you provide unsolicited advice on this thing, people are like, why are you telling me this? Because they're saying what they heard was, I don't think you look good. That's what they
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah.
And you know
Exactly.
what? Nobody wants to be told that.
Right.
Men,
Right.
whoever it is. So therefore, if you do it together, you will be far more successful. The kids will see a unified message. And guess what? Everybody will get healthier in the process.
Yeah, and we're my husband and I are huge followers of the Dave Ramsey show, which is about finances, and he talks, it's kind of goes along with everything. When you're not in it together, there's actually some bigger issues if you
Absolutely.
can't both get on board. So, it's worth having the conversation and not pointing fingers, but figuring out together what's the best plan.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. I mean, here's the thing, it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but guess what? If you both look good for each other, you're doing for each other,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, your kids will watch this. And this transformation, let me put it this way. If you make those changes like we discussed at the very beginning of the show, in a month, you will see significant results just by making those small changes.
Right. I believe that. And it's just on a note, when my mom was addicted to Diet Coke, my sister and I one time took the amount of Diet Cokes that she was drinking and filled up the kitchen sink.
Ah,
And she
wow.
was mortified
Oh,
with to be able to visualize it. There's all those shows out there like The Biggest Loser and those types of shows, and that's probably a whole nother topic about how they how
oh
they
yeah.
go about it. But when there is something to be said for being able to visualize how much of something you're putting into your body,
And
especially.
that's why I mentioned visualize the positive, which is how you
Right.
want to, right? So if you can visualize the negative, visualize the positive as well.
Yeah, and we're so quick to visualize negatives and to hold on
Exactly.
to those negatives that if we just turn it around, it can really impact a lot of different aspects.
Oh yeah, and if you can achieve this kind of goal, guess what? You'll create a lot of self-discipline,
Hmm.
mental discipline, and so you'll be able to say, "I can eat that one piece of cake and push the rest away." So
Right.
this will create a lot of positive connections in your brain to be more self-disciplined.
So, along with your, 3 steps, which have some sub steps in there with the visualizing how you want to look, how the majority of the work is done in the kitchen, and then calculating your water and sugar and fiber intake. Um, I hear that you suggest maybe even like journaling or somehow keeping track of these steps, because when you write it down, like for example, when I was pregnant, I had a piece of paper that I taped to the fridge and I had to
Right.
write down everything that I ate so I could calculate my protein intake and fiber and vitamin C and all that kind of stuff. And it held me accountable in the sense that when I really wanted that candy bar, I'm like, "Oh, but I don't want to write it down because everybody can see it when it's on the fridge."
Right. So in my book, I created a 60-day food diary. Right.
Okay.
So at the very back. So basically, you write down the first 30 days, kind of the foods you're eating, how it makes you feel, and then the next 30 days, you're going to see a big difference between what you wrote down in the first 30 to the next 30,
Mhm.
and that change is tangible. You'll see it in yourself, and you'll see that your habits are changing because you'll start adopting a healthy lifestyle and you don't have to pay exorbitant amounts of money to have this food delivered to your house. You don't have to do a point system like with all these diet programs. And
Right.
guess what? It will be a lifestyle change after doing it for 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this. I can honestly say I was one of those that I was like, oh yeah, I eat healthy, I exercise, I'm healthy. But when you really, really dig deep, and my problem wasn't what I was eating, it was what I wasn't eating.
Right.
Um, and so your steps, this is huge, and I think, and I hope, I know that it can help so many people out there just by taking these easy steps to making a change in your mental state, because I really believe it actually, it with the visualizing how you look, it starts in the mind.
Yep.
Because if you haven't convinced yourself that it's worth it, then it's not going to be successful.
Yeah, some of the healthiest people I know, guess what? They don't eat less, they eat more throughout the day.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's how it is for me, which is I can't get enough food throughout the day. I'm calorie deficient. That's my problem.
Yeah, I see that in my husband too. He, you know, his he has to get flight physicals and they're constantly like, "How are you so healthy?" And it's not that he doesn't eat stuff he enjoys. It's just he's very mindful of what he puts in his body. So,
Exactly. You eat clean, you will actually, turn the clock back on your metabolism so that you can eat more and be more efficient with what you eat. And if you have a bad day, guess what? It won't affect you as much as if you had a slower metabolism and had a bad day.
yeah. Well, I have just absolutely loved this topic, and it really helps to see that making a few changes can go a long way, and not having to break the bank in the process, because it is commercialism out there, consumerism. It's all about, buy this, buy that. When it's really just, hey, how about you just not put ketchup on everything with, that simple step, when then you're saving the $1.50 that you were spending on ketchup.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, that it's about taking any sort of responsibility out of your hands and saying, pay us this and we'll do everything for you. But in the process, you learn nothing.
Yeah, and in a busy life, I can see how that's it's enticing, but it hasn't, even for someone like me who has fallen into those traps of, easy, convenient, fast, it never made me feel any better. And it really didn't save me any time.
It's true. And it becomes so cost ineffective
Yeah.
over time that you'll look at it saying, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Guess what? The weight is going to come back.
Yeah. Yep. I've seen it. I've seen it in family and friends, and even the guys that are the spokespeople on TV for different diets and programs. There's a reason why they're not on TV anymore.
Well, it's the funniest thing is like Marie Osmond pushes, was it Weight Watchers, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know how many thousands of pounds she must have lost because she's been doing these commercials forever. Oh my God. I mean, she must be losing gaining like crazy.
Yeah.
So in order to keep doing these commercials for like 10 years.
Right.
So what does that tell you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, as always, I love Wednesday nights. I look forward to Wednesday nights because I think this is such a great topic, and we always have great conversation. And for those of you that are listening, don't hesitate to share your questions and comments and concerns so that we can address them on our next show. And if you have a topic that you would like us to cover, then please share that with us too. And you can find Sanjay. I highly recommend going and getting his book. So Sanjay, where can they get your book?
So you can get a number of places. So you can go to thefoodtalk.net to get a signed copy of the book, or you can go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble's website online. And then we also have the first chapter on the website as well. You can download for free just to check it out as well.
And guys, exciting things are coming. Sanjay is going to be offering some great coaching packages on our platform, Honest Talk International. So stay tuned for more information on how to get in touch. So
Absolutely.
thanks again.